Okay, so I told you guys I was going to try and get more on this. You saw the video that I uploaded on Friday of the location where a guy named Jesus Rega, he's a man with special needs, 21 years old, who was shot by gang members in the back of the yards neighborhood. And I'm at the scene here in this video showing you guys around the neighborhood. This is the back of the yards neighborhood on the southwest side of Chicago. It's basically a war zone between several Hispanic gangs, the Almighty Saints, the 2-6, the Rasas, and then there's also some black gangs like in the southern part of back of the yards. But for some reason the Latino gangs in that neighborhood get more exposure. This guy who got shot, this 21-year-old, he's nonverbal. Okay, so he can't really talk. His brother, who was with him, who was 15, is also nonverbal, so he can't talk. So when gang members confront them and they like shout stuff at them and stuff, they can't say anything back. Now, what they were wearing when they were shot, I don't know. In one particular photo, they had shown Jesus wearing like a black and brown, like a hoodie, like a black and brown checked hoodie that from a distance might be mistaken for being black and khaki. I don't know if he was wearing that when he was shot. Black and khaki or black and beige, that's like the colors of the Gangsta 2-6 Nation. But it didn't say that he was wearing that when he was shot, but black and brown is a little bit different. A lot of the differences in the gang colors in that neighborhood are very subtle. And this is the case like citywide. Like, you have the SGDs, which is like, it's like baby blue. And then you got the MLDs, which is like a little bit darker blue. Then like the Grand City MLDs at one point were into with some GDs, and their colors are, well, I mean, they don't really color bang, but their colors are black and blue. You got the Latin Kings, it's black and gold into it with the SDs, it's black and yellow. And then the 2-6 are, black and beige, like I said, black and khaki. A lot of these gangs, like you got the Rasas black and red, and then the Stones are also black and red, but they're not really into it. But I mean, these differences, it's like completely insignificant, man. Sometimes even having a hat cocked to the wrong side can be the reason. But the police think that these were guys that were false flagging and were trying to trick them into, mistakenly declaring a gang identity based on basically false signals. Okay, and this is something that I've reported on before. I reported on those SDs that went into the Kings neighborhood and were basically false flagging, saying that they were, Kings was something like king and all this kind of stuff to try to trick these guys. And guys are doing this all the time, man. All the time. So, you can never really trust anything. And then there's almost no right answer. Because if you don't say anything, okay, they might blow at you anyways and assume that you're a rival. If you do say something, they might assume you're lying. And if you tell them that you're the same thing that they are, well, they might be false flagging. But I would say guys more often false flag than tell the truth. Really, I mean, that's what I see going on. That woman, Candace, that was just shot, that happened when guys were out there on the street false flagging too. It's like they do this every single time, practically. But they're reporting moments before a burst of gunfire critically wounded a young man with mental disabilities. A group approached him, his younger brother and their father, in the back of the yards neighborhood and yelled that they were members of the 2-6 street gang. This is notorious in the area. Now, the 2-6 is the Latin folks. They throw up the rakes, and they're basically like a Latino version of the GDs. Them, the MLDs and the SGDs, all of them are kind of like that. But their main rivals are the Kings, but they also in this neighborhood beef with the Saints. So Chicago police believe that the three attackers were actually Saints, and were using a tactic called false flagging. Now, one thing I'll just say, for anybody that read this report in the media, they call them the Latin Saints. That they use that term, and that's really not the proper term. They're called the Almighty Saints, and to call them the Latin Saints is particularly inaccurate in this case because that's actually a Polish gang. That's the way it started. Like, it was started by Polish immigrants, and it like most of the white gangs, the immigrant gangs in the city, it steadily, slowly but surely became majority Hispanic. Whether they have any like Polish members even left in that area, I haven't seen any in a long time. They might have a few, but that kind of like takes away the accuracy of the gang's roots. It's really a Polish gang at in its historical origin, but they believe that they were claiming to belong to another gang to coax rivals into identifying themselves. So Jesus Rega and his 15-year-old brother are both nonverbal and were unable to respond to the deadly trick as they waited for a bus with their father around 6:40 a.m. So this is, I mean, at a time when a lot of kids are out going to school. And this was on Wednesday over by 47th and Walcott, where you guys saw me in the last video. Nearly 40 gunshots soon rang out. Now, the gang members who were wearing masks and black clothing ran off and have not yet been arrested, but the police say that they are closing in on these guys. They're getting a lot of evidence, and they think soon to making an arrest. So video of the shooting hasn't yet been found, but investigators are combing through footage to find the gang members before and after the attack. So there was no disruption, they said, in the rapid-fire rounds detected by the city's gunshot detection software, indicating that a single shooter may have used an automatic weapon. So they don't have any footage of this. And as you guys could see at the scene, you know, when I showed the location, there's no real cameras that are visible. It's not a real major intersection right there. The big intersection is up at Ashland, and then there's another big intersection up at 47th and Damon. But 47th and Walcott is not that big of an intersection. So as far as cameras, you know, they don't really have anything yet that we know of. I think they're referring to the shot spotter. That's what they usually refer to the gun detection technology as. They think that it was a single attacker with an automatic weapon, okay? And they said, quote, the historic conflict between the Saints and the 2-6 gangs is largely being waged over territory. And that, too, I don't know if that's accurate. It's kind of like a back and forth thing, really. I mean, it's just like about that score, you know what I'm saying? As far as the territory, I don't know how much of a factor that is. But anyways, they said it's being waged over territory according to their sources. And they said that Jesus Rega's shooting may have been a case of mistaken identity. They said he and his family have no gang affiliation, according to police. So there was another shooting over by 43rd and Wood, which is about four or five blocks away from where I was at. And that's the heart of the Saints territory, they said. And it appears to have mistakenly targeted an off-duty cop just a few hours later. So you see how dangerous it is in this neighborhood? In some ways, I'm gonna like, I don't want to start like a big race war in the comment section, but like, you know, some of these gangs that have like these, because the white gangs, you know, the few that are left, they do this too, where they just like, it's like this citywide beef, you know, and it's like you can mistake a guy for wearing the wrong color. And in some ways, if you're not part of that life, that makes it more dangerous than it is with like these black gangs after the gangs were broken up. The black gangs used to be on that in the 90s, you know. You'd see a guy, you know, with a red flag hanging out of his back pocket. Like the kids used to wear those flags and the colors and everything at Sullivan. You would see the Stones in black and red, you know, the GDs with black and blue. But that kind of stopped like around like 05, as I remember. It caused mistaken identity back then. But today, in this day and age, man, like since it's just broken up into these cliques, you know, if you're not the guy they want, you know, and they don't know you by face, really, you don't have anything to worry about unless you're just like with the wrong. I mean, typically, like if a black gang hits a Neutron, you know, it's because he was like in the way, you know, and they just missed or something like that. You know, it's not because they were deliberately targeting him. It's just like a real dangerous area for neutrons, man. Like, period. Like anybody that looks like they could be that, you know, basically that age range, Latino, or it's like, man, even if you don't bang, there's like nothing you can do to be totally sure that they're not going to mistake you for the wrong guy. But anyways, Raymond Lopez, it's his district, okay? He's the alderman of the 15th ward, and he's been one of the most outspoken critics of, you know, the crime that we got in the city. And he said the community needs to step up. People need to say enough, and they need to come forward not only to bring the shooters to justice, but to put an end to this nonsense in our neighborhoods. So, you know, he's a Latino alderman. He expresses a lot of outrage with the gang violence in the Latino community. And in Chicago, there's a big presence of like community activists who are constantly kind of making excuses for gang behavior, saying, you know, they're disadvantaged. They blame it on the system. They blame it on the police. They blame it on all these things that you can historically, I guess, you know, point fingers at. But at the end of the day, like, there's nobody that bears responsibility for pulling that trigger except the person that pulled the trigger. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that's still a choice that somebody has to make in the moment. You know, to point a gun at somebody they don't know and to say whether he's a gang member or not, I'm gonna just shoot. So I mean, there's nothing that can excuse that, man. To say that they're just victims of their circumstances and stuff is to basically degrade them more than their critics are doing. I mean, because you're basically saying they're just an animal. They can't think rationally. They're just trained by society, and they just have to do whatever they're trained to do. Like, no, they don't. They're humans. They can think. If you don't know who that guy is, don't shoot him. Period. It's not that hard. But Jesus was hospitalized on Friday in critical condition, and doctors have warned that he could lose his senses of sight and taste. And his father was hopeful and said that the family is approaching his son's recovery one day at a time. He said he's responding. He's opening his eyes. That's good. He said it's too early to assume anything. He's still in the healing process. So hopefully this young guy, man, he'll be able to make a recovery. I don't know if he's going to lose his sight and his hearing because he was already disabled. Now he's going to be even more disabled on top of this. He had no gang affiliation. His family has no gang affiliation. So that's what's going on over there, man. And to the members who did this, I mean, obviously the right thing to do would be to turn themselves in, but the community got to step up. Lopez is right because it continues to go on. And one of the things the gang members say is that they know the odds are they're not going to be caught. Like, they say that. So, I mean, it's on the community to change that. If the odds were that they were going to be caught, okay, what would the dynamic be at that point? So, I mean, it's up to them to, whether they want to see that or the current situation. But I know that that's dangerous. And so that part is on the police to make sure that they can give that information anonymously, and that, there's not going to be a risk that they're going to be exposed as the quote unquote snitch. That's the most important thing. So, yeah, man, shout out to everybody that has done that anywhere in the city of Chicago, man. But I hope this guy pulls through and makes it, man. Prayers up for Jesus Rega, man. There's your boy When You See Report. I'm out.